So I created a roadmap, a blueprint of how to basically build a Walmart-like empire. Sam Walton built a nearly $1 trillion empire, and I think there are just so many key takeaway lessons that we can learn, plus that we can implement into our own business because lessons are only valuable if we're able to implement it. So I'll also have a little roadmap on how we can do that. And before we start, I think it's important that we get into Sam Walton's life itself, because if we want to understand the company, we need to understand the person, because tons of experiences that Sam Walton experienced during his lifetime, it's kind his company is kind of reflection of it. So you'll see in a second. You'll see in a second. Before we start, by the way, this information is all based on information on how Sam Walton ran the company when he was still alive. I'm not sure how the company is run at this very moment. I've heard some bad reviews, but those are the grandchildren, of course. So they were born in wealth and they don't have the same mindset and the founder's mentality as Sam Walton. So you can't compare it. So there might be some tricks and some systems that Sam Walton used back in the day, but they aren't used anymore in the Walmart stores, which is also maybe a bit of a glimpse of that it isn't going that well. But that's another story. So yeah, I don't want to see any angry "I'm a Walmart employee and this is not true" comments. Okay. Okay, let's get into Sam Walton. Get your espresso, you're gonna need it, and get your notebook ready. Okay, let's understand his childhood. So he was born on March 29th, 1918 in Kingfisher, Oklahoma. His parents were Thomas Gibson Walton and Nancy Lee Walton. Sam Walton said in his biography, "I learned from a very early age that it was important for us kids to help provide for the home, to be contributors rather than just takers." Then he said, "One thing my mother and dad shared completely was their approach to money. They just didn't spend it." And that's one of the key takeaway lessons that we're going to study over here later. And that is that Sam Walton was extremely frugal. And the reason for that is because of the Great Depression. The Great Depression happened when he was 5 years old. And because of the Great Depression, he needed to start working at 7. He started to have to sell magazine subscriptions, paper routes. He was raising these rabbits and pigeons and then selling them. So from an early age, he was out there grinding, you could say. He said, "We were poor like everybody else during the Depression, but I never felt poor. I was too busy raising rabbits and selling magazine subscriptions." Okay, so he did that during his childhood. Then he went to the high school, the David H. Hickman High School in Columbia, Missouri. Then he became the youngest Eagle Scout in Missouri history at the time. I have no clue what that is. I'm a European, but that doesn't matter because to him it was something very important. As he said in his book, "I was the youngest Eagle Scout in Missouri at the time. That meant something to me, and I guess it made me feel like I could achieve things." And then he also said, "Even as a boy, I was a hustler. I was going to school and working, and I liked it. It gave me a sense of independence." Um, and this reminded me of John D. Rockefeller, because John D. Rockefeller, like Sam Walton, had an extreme enthusiasm for their hustles, their work as a kid. And Rockefeller was so obsessed about his work that he literally had a day called Job Day, and that was basically a yearly celebration where he celebrated the first day that he got his first job. And Ron Chernow wrote in a biography of Rockefeller called Titan, which I highly recommend. He said, "For the rest of his life, he would honor September 26th as Job Day and celebrate it with more genuine brio than his birthday." You'll see that in a second too, how obsessed and how excited Sam Walton is for work. Then after high school, he went to University of Missouri. He graduated in 1940 with a degree in economics. Then he said, "I put myself through college by working tables in the college dining hall. College taught me how to organize and how to get things done. I wasn't the smartest guy, but I was always determined to outwork everyone." He was extreme hard work, and you'll see that in his story too. I learned early on that a little hard work and enthusiasm could take you a long way. That's something I carried with me from high school through college and into business. So again, you see that extreme obsession for work like John D. Rockefeller. Well, why do I have Hitler over here? Well, that's not nice. That doesn't look that good. That's okay. Fixed it. Hitler, war happened obviously in 1940. Well, World War II happened in 1939, and if I remember correctly, America joined in 1942. And Sam Walton had to go to the military, of course. So he worked there as an army intelligence corps, and he mostly did security work. He was like a prison guard, something like that, but it wasn't on the front lines, but it was still extremely dangerous and still extremely important. And he said that he learned two lessons from the military. He learned discipline and he learned lessons about management. And what he said about discipline was, I learned discipline and I learned how to follow through. You can't just talk in the military, you have to get things done. Talk the talk, walk the walk. Then about management, he said, the army taught me how to manage people, how to be responsible for others. That was probably the biggest thing I took away from my service. Then eventually, he starts the Ben Franklin store. He said, when the war ended, I was ready to go to work. I had saved up a little money and I was looking for an opportunity. The Ben Franklin store was basically a franchise store, so it wasn't his store. Um, and that eventually does become an issue, but we're going to get into that in a second. And Ben Franklin basically sold all different types of products, mostly very cheap products. In 1945, Sam buys the Ben Franklin store in Newport, Arkansas. Then in 1945 till 1950, this is basically the period where he starts from a beginner and turns into a pro, you could say. He becomes one of the biggest Ben Franklin stores in America, and they turn around 250,000 a year in revenue. And if I can remember correctly, it was around $40,000 in profit a year, which is that's a lot because this is 1945, 1950. So you can probably like 5x that or 10x that. Um, during Ben Franklin's store, he also tests out new things. He isn't able to completely test out all his creative ideas, but he is allowed to test out some things like an ice cream machine, better displays, discount pricing, and also just a lot of lessons he learned from just understanding the systems that Ben Franklin worked with and how manufacturing works and how transferring all the goods and marketing worked. And he also learned a lot about what not to do. I think that was like also a main takeaway lesson that he learned from Ben Franklin is like, okay, I don't want to get stuck into the way they're working because it's just not efficient and there's so much bureaucracy that they're not even changing it. That's why Ben Franklin doesn't even exist anymore. I think there's only like one store left. 1950 happens. So basically, he starts from zero and builds Ben Franklin, his store, into one of the best stores in America. And then 1950, his landlord refuses to renew the lease and he takes over the store, which is obviously a stab in the heart, stab in the back, because you need to imagine he's a poor farmer, Sam Walton, and he basically finally created a successful store and now he loses it. Well, the way Sam Walton handled this is very inspiring. He said, I've never been one to dwell on reverses. You can make a positive out of most negatives if you work at it hard enough. So what does he do? He starts a new store, obviously. The reason he started, he basically started a new store, but it was still a Ben Franklin store. But this time he learned from his lesson and he bought the land. He bought the building. Um, but then eventually he does want to move from a Ben Franklin store into his own independent store. And this is basically how Walmart gets founded. And there were a couple reasons why he wanted to not work with Ben Franklin anymore is because it really limited his freedom. He wanted to go cheaper and he couldn't innovate freely. And this is how Walmart is created. And Walmart was first called Walmart Discount City. And he basically gets obsessed with selling products at the cheapest price possible. And this is such a great full circle moment because, as you see, remember here, the landlord steals his shop. Well, this is what happens. Like, this is the best form of payback. He said, "It wasn't too long before the old Ben Franklin store I had run on Front Street had to close its doors. His customers were the one who shut him down. They voted with their feet. So he starts the new Walmart store next to his old landlord and he beats the hell out of him." Love to see it. Okay, now I think we have a good idea on his life story. I didn't want to go too much into details because this isn't a biography video. This is a blueprint on the Walmart Empire video. So let's get into that. Let me take a sip real quick because my throat is gonna hurt. Okay. So the first lesson and takeaway is frugality. Obviously, that came from the Great Depression. Frugality was extremely important to him, and this is what his wife, Helen Walton, had to say about it. "Our money was made by controlling expenses." And then Sam Walton himself said, "Every day Walmart spends $1 foolishly, it comes right out of our customers' pockets." Love that quote. So Walmart had this 1% expense target. Not sure if that's still the case. And how were they able to make sure that they reach their target of 1%? Well, that is with gamification. And gamification is this tactic where you basically turn this goal into a challenge. And the challenge was how to keep the company as frugal as possible, even though it was growing. And because it's growing, there isn't this great connection between the founder and the employees always. Sometimes I can distance. You can imagine if you've got a company with 50,000, 100,000, a million employees, it's hard for the employee to give a fuck about the cost for the employer, right? Because the credit card is not their credit card, it's the credit card of the company. So who cares? Well, Sam Walton created this structure where there was a reward to you being frugal with the way you were working at Walmart. So basically, these if you found these opportunities where Walmart could save cost, you could basically get stock plus a great job pin. But don't think that many cared about the great job pin. But the stock is very valuable, obviously, especially in those days. I mean, if you got stock from Walmart in 1917 and you kept it until now, you're definitely a millionaire. Even as a cashier, there's actually a couple stories in Sam Walton's book where he shows that there are literally chauffeurs and there were people that were working behind cashiers that actually turned into millionaires or were able to pay off their mortgage because of these stock options. And these employees came with great ideas because there was a great incentive. So they came up with turning off the sales lights like 30 minutes before closing, switching the light bulbs to ones that are cheaper, using double-sided paper. I mean, then you basically slice it to 50% already, all the paper you're using. And Michael, his name is very difficult, Bergdahl, basically he worked for Sam Walton back in the day. He was one of those early employees, and he wrote a book about Sam Walton, about the Walmart empire. And after watching this video, I definitely recommend you to read his books on Sam Walton, but to also read Sam Walton's biography. And he wrote, $100 savings in one store becomes 700,000 across 7,000 stores. You got to see it like that. Like, it might not seem like a lot. Like, oh, you're just saving, I don't know, like $10 a day on electricity. But if that's $300 and you times that by 7,000, that's a lot per month. And imagine in 50 years, you're saving millions. And this frugal mindset, you also see that with other great entrepreneurs. Also with Jeff Bezos, one of the greats, you could say. And there was this tradition back with the early Amazon employees that they turned their old doors into desks. And Jeff Bezos had a great quote about frugality. He said, "We spend money on things that touch customers, not ourselves." So customer first principle. And we're going to get deeper into that in a second. Sam Walton also had to say about frugality: "Control your expenses better than your competition." This is where you can always find the competitive advantage. And just to be crystal clear, being frugal doesn't mean that you're lowering the quality of your services or your products. If your products are not able to be made any cheaper, and if the only way to make it cheaper or to make your service cheaper is by worsening the quality, then it's not worth it. We're talking about frugality with certain aspects of your company where people often forget about. So it could be like all these monthly subscriptions you've got open, or all these electronic bills, or keeping the lights on during the nighttime in the office. Like, these are all unnecessary costs, and eventually the customer is obviously going to have to pay for it. And you can get an advantage, obviously, by really watching those costs. And I just mentioned the customer first principle. Well, that's what we're gonna talk about next, because that was one of the key takeaways too. Um, Sam Walton was obsessed with customers, and this is what he had to say about that. He said, "There's only one boss, the customer, and he or she can fire everybody in the company, from the chairman on down, simply by spending his or her money somewhere else." So there were a couple methods I found how Sam Walton was able to keep that customer first principle alive in the stores. And you had the sundown rule, you had the 10 foot rule, and you had the no questions asked returns rule. So let's start with the sundown rule. It's quite basic, but it's very important still. Is that all messages, requests, or customer follow-ups had to be answered by the end of the same day. And then you had for the 10 foot rule is whenever you come within 10 feet of a customer, look them in the eye, greet them, and ask if you can help her. I mean, this is not something extremely innovative, but there wasn't any other store that was doing it. At least there weren't any competitors like to Walmart that were doing it. So this helped a lot. I mean, um, just these little details, they do eventually really add up. And the customer experience back in the day, I'm not sure about right now, but the customer experience at Walmart was just incredible. There were even like, I didn't mention it here, but there was even a guy that could hide in every single store to just basically say hello. It's like the greeting man, they called him. And all he did was basically greet people when they arrived at the store. That was his job. So service desks were placed right at the front to demonstrate cost to every customer. And a great example of how this could work again here is that there was a client who seriously came back with a coffee machine from Kmart, and he brought it back. And you'd think you'd fight back. Obviously, you're not gonna get money for that, but no, they actually did give him money. And Sam Walton said that you shouldn't penalize 97% of honest customers for 3% who might game the system. I mean, that's a fair thing to say, but my ego would instantly be like, I want to prove the customer wrong, but maybe I'm in the wrong too. By thinking that way, maybe it's good to see the bigger picture. One thing to mention though is that the managers did tell the cape, or did tell the customer that you're gonna get a free machine, but promise next time that your coffee bones and whatever, and your next coffee machine, you need to buy it at Walmart. Um, I put this in yellow because I found this extremely important, and I really want you to note this down. He said, customers are dependent on us. We are completely dependent on them. Sorry, customers are not dependent on us. We are completely dependent on them. They are the lifeblood of our company. And this is something so many big companies forget, that they need us. We don't need them. Okay. Um, Now we're going to get into profit sharing. And this is one of the ways that he could make sure that the employees actually gave a fuck, he could say. And I wanted to start off with this little video.
The bottom line is that we developed the
This is Sam Walton talking.
formula of how important our hourly associates are for our company. Our company is built on people. The success we've had is because of our people. And I believe that. You believe it from the beginning. All of our associates believe it. We've made partners out of our folks rather than employees. And they know that we've been sincere in trying to share the profits with them. And they, in turn, have worked harder than our competitors. We've kept our prices lower than our competitors' prices. We've led the nation in cost of doing business, in sales per square foot, in all the measurements you can imagine over about a 15-year period in this business that we've all put together here in Bentonville, Arkansas. And I guess we could say we've overcome a few liabilities, because who would have thought we could have done it in Bentonville? I certainly have enjoyed all that.
So yeah, what he said is that he basically turned the employees into, they felt like they were really a part of something bigger than themselves. They didn't just feel like regular 9 to 5 work, because that was it. That was really Sam Walton's goal. Another thing he said about who would have thought that we would be able to do it in Bentonville. Probably Bentonville, you don't even recognize the name. I mean, I didn't. I had to look it up where it was. We're gonna get into that in a second because that's also a very interesting topic in itself, like why Bentonville, like why start Walmart over there. But first, let's get into the profit sharing, the system that Sam Walton had for that. So Sam Walton believed profit sharing wasn't charity, it was strategy. This is what Sam Walton had to say. He said, "The more you share profits with your associates, the more profits will accrue to the company. Why? Because the way management treats the associates is exactly how the associates will then treat the customers. You've got to give them an incentive. And it does show as a company, like, oh, you really do appreciate us. Such an important thing. So, how did this work? Basically, you were able to get the bonus um, after your year of working and 1,000 hours worked. Then the company sets like annual profit goals. Then each store performance tracked monthly. Bonus plus cash. Bonus is cash plus Walmart stocks. In the earlier years, probably not now anymore. I doubt that they're still giving away stock. And employees could see store profit reports, also very important because there was this sense of, okay, they're not trying to hide anything from us. So all the numbers were completely public for all the Walmart employees. Extra stock was offered at discount through your employee plan. And you also see that in Sam Walton's book, how that actually turned many old employees into a millionaire. And this was basically also designed to turn employees into cost-conscious owners. So they basically turned the employee into a semi-freelancer type business owner, you could say. Like all these Walmart really did work on an individual level, and they all had their own goals, which did, of course, eventually intertwine to like the whole goal of the enterprise. But it was still very much focused on per store. And I think that's the best way to do it too, because especially like the managers, they had so much room for their own creativity. And you see that too in the biography of Sam Walton, is especially in the early days. These Walmart managers had so much room to just try out new marketing ideas. And because of this, the result was that they were doing all these crazy stunts because Sam Walton didn't block them of trying out new things. So they were basically able to run their Walmart as if it was their own company. And Sam Walton even told some of them that you are allowed to say that if someone else, just say it's your company. Because this is also back in the day when Walmart wasn't even public, it was still a private company. And when it was private, he really didn't mind if you say it was your company. He really didn't care. He was really mostly focused on behind the scenes. It was never really for the glory, I believe, with Sam Walton. So yeah, that's how it worked. The result is you've got a really rich Walmart employee, at least the older ones. I'm not sure about the younger ones these days. Yeah, you had millionaire employees, you had long time truck drivers and store associates who retired as millionaires thanks to reinvested bonuses and stock appreciation. Um, Extreme cost discipline, you had that culture in the Walmart for the Walmart employees. You know, ownership mentality, as I just mentioned. You also had this peer pressure to perform, kind of, because if you didn't perform, it would also result in less growth for Walmart, or less growth for Walmart is that the stock goes down. If stock goes down, everyone loses because many of the employees had stock. So that's a great way of like really keeping the motivation high. And of course, you have a low turnover because if you have stock in a company, you often want to keep on working there. Now, let's get into the next lesson. Watch the competition. And this kind of aligns with the whole motto of this channel: study the greats and become greater. And I think that Sam Walton is the perfect example of how to do this in the most strategic way possible. It's absolutely fascinating how he did this. This is my favorite part of the whole book. Sam Walton also said that there is no extra credit for coming up with an original idea, only for results. People only care about the end results. No one cares about how he came up with the idea. There's no individual in the there's no an individual in these whole United States who has been in more retail stores than Sam Walton. Make that all over the world. That's what one of the managers said. Um, so let's get into the specific habits and tactics that Sam Walton used in order to like copy from his competitors and then eventually use it in his own company, and not only copy it but also improve it. So he visited thousands of stores himself. He didn't just send people; he also did it himself. And how he did that, how he was traveling, is very interesting. Get to that in a second. He spoke with the clerks, with the customers, and the managers from competitors. So he really went to those stores, and it even got him in trouble sometimes. Competitors didn't like it. But yeah, he spoke to the cleaning lady, even to the people filling up the shelves, to the people behind the cashiers. Like, he was talking to everyone. He wanted to know details. He didn't care about what ranks. Preferably, he wanted to know from the people on the floor, not even from the CEO, because the CEO is going to make things sound more beautiful than it is, obviously. So he studied what competitors did right, and then what he found what was right, he improved it, and he put it in Walmart itself. He took notes constantly. That was one of his trademarks. He always had this notepad with him. Sam Walton said, oh no, someone else said, so he's probably a manager, said he uses good old boy charm. Good old boy. I'm just a small time retailer from Arkansas. To get meetings with presidents of rival chains who gave away their best secrets without realizing it. I think this also in itself a key takeaway lesson is don't underestimate how much people love talking about themselves. People love it. People are so obsessed with themselves, you have no idea. So try to stroke that ego. Try to stroke that ego. Let them talk about their work. Let them talk about their project. There's so much you can learn from that, and convert that into lessons for your own company. Um, and how was he able to like turn these habits of taking notes, blah blah blah, into actually practices in the company itself? Well, buyers were required to shop competitor stores weekly. That is was still shamelessly mantra in the company, so it was really a part of the culture. Then Michael, that's the guy who wrote about Sam Walton, he said, ideas are free for the taking. Other companies have already tested them at great expense. All you have to do is visit other stores and see what they are doing. I love that bit of the quote. Other companies have already tested them at great expense. I don't remember if this was if this was Charlie Munger or Warren Buffett, but there was this meeting between I think it was Warren Buffett with some other CEO. The CEO was like, "Yeah, I'm trying to find like a CEO for my company. Uh, how do I find a good CEO?" And he said, "Well, just find someone who's done it before." And he was like, "But shouldn't we give like young people a show?" It's like, "Yeah, you should, but not me. I don't do that." And I think that's the same with this. Like, let other people, other companies suffer, let them make the mistakes, and then when they found this winning product, winning system, whatever, then you can just steal it, improve it, and use it for your own company. So a great example of this is that in the early 1980s, Sam Walton visited France and toured a Carrefour hypermarket. This is if you've never seen this, uh, these pictures are, it doesn't look that crazy, but it's basically, they call it a hypermarket, but it's basically what a supermarket looks like, normal supermarket looks like these days. But it's just a supermarket. And you need to realize that back in the day, the supermarkets were tiny. So this was a whole new innovation. And Sam Walton observed that they did immense scale of operations. So these were incredibly huge stores, and these were just grocery stores. They also sold, I don't know, like chargers, or if you needed blankets, like these little tiny things that you could need quickly. And on the way to doing your grocery store shopping, you might as well do that too. And this was really popular in France. Um, yeah, shoppers could buy groceries, TVs, furniture, and clothing in one trip. Um, and they had extremely wide aisles with super efficient bulk shelving, low prices based on volume turnover. So the margins were lower, but the volume was way higher with these hyper markets, hyper stores. The result of studying this in France was the Walmart Super Center, and it was a 200,000 square foot Walmart Super Center. And this is a picture of it. It looks like a normal Walmart now, I know, but back in the day, this was revolutionary. Um, it crushed traditional grocery stores. No one was doing it. It had basically, they did go into these suburban and tiny places that no one really wanted to go to. We're going to go into the details of that in a second. So yeah, basically the result of studying this in France was the Walmart supercenter that many Americans use these days. So he really implemented the study the greats and become greater, because he definitely outperformed what the French were doing. Now let's get into going where others won't. So we just talked about this a second ago, but this is incredible. Like, this is insane. You're gonna see why I think this is insane in a second. Okay, so Walmart opened in small towns with populations under 10,000. Okay, who the hell would even think of doing that? Well, Sam Walton truly believed that this was the right move, because these little towns of only 10,000 people were ignoring them. So all those 10,000 people had to drive to Kmart, which was maybe an hour, 2 hour drive in order to do their shopping. So this was a market that was extremely hungry. There was no competition. The real estate was cheaper. And of course, the hungry market that I just mentioned. So how did he pick and find those gems of under a 10,000, those gems with a population under 10,000? How did he find them? Well, this is the extremely interesting part. He flew in a solo plane. Yes, really, in a solo plane. Isn't that just incredible? I don't know why I find this so funny, but that's like the extreme hunger and extreme creativity to it. But I just love that. Just flying in the little solo play through America and basically analyzing great locations to set up new Walmarts. Um, this is what Michael said. He said he used his prop plane to fly over towns looking for Walmart sites. He'd look for water towers, traffic patterns, especially near highways, because of course, if you have the sky view, you have a way better view of what the traffic is doing. How busy is the traffic? Around what time is it busy? Are the parking lots full? Are they not full? Is it full? But there's only a Kmart, and there's potential. There's just so much data that he could get from studying via plane. Also, what he did was asking the locals. Um, Michael said, he trusted common sense more than consulting firms. If he saw pickup trucks and busy diners, he knew that there was money in town. Sam walked downtown. He talked to the bankers, to the barbers, and to the waitresses. If a community felt neglected by big brands but had pride, population, and parking, it was green light. So he mapped locations near distribution centers too. That's also very important. That's a part of how he found those gems, or at least how he picked those gems. They had to be close to distribution centers because otherwise they'd run out of stock quite quickly, or maybe even the transfer expenses will be way too high. If the transfer expenses are way too high, then you can't price your products low. And if you can't price your products low, then the Walmart wouldn't align with the goal of Walmart. So those are all things he had to really think about. He had to keep that on top of mind, obviously. So he picked towns within reach of planned distribution centers. He was always open to building new ones. This kept his inventory flowing efficiently, even in remote places. Conclusion: this is what Sam Walton said. If everybody is doing it one way, there's a good chance you can find your niche by going exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. And I love that quote because this is exactly the opposite. This completely. Who the hell would do this? And who the hell would do this? Who would go to a town with a population under 10,000, or Kmart was only opening up stores that had a population above 50,000, 100,000, 250,000, maybe even a million? They were only going for the big cities, but neglecting the small cities. And this is where Sam Walton found a edge. This is where he found it. And I take that, I mean, I see that in my own business too. I have an agency and I've got this, you could call maybe a bit of a luxury agency. We only work with 5 clients maximum. It's a more premium price and everyone is going the cheaper route. Everyone wants the cheapest agency, but we're doing exactly the opposite. Or we are obviously offering the highest, the best services in Holland, I would say. So yeah, going the other way, and that's how I found my niche, and that's how Sam Walton found his niche. That's a key takeaway lesson. Okay, so now we've had the whole roadmap of how to build this massive empire. Of course, there are way more lessons that we can learn from Walmart, but otherwise we'd have an episode of like 5 hours. This is my first time ever doing this roadmap, so please let me know if you even enjoyed this in the first place. Let's do a quick little summary so you do really remember what we learned today, so you can implement it into your own company. And that was watch the competition and really, really analyze it and see how you can implement that into your own company. And this is mostly what they're doing right, and don't do what they're doing wrong. Obviously, go where other people won't go. Profit sharing. I'm still working on this one. I haven't done this one yet, but I am looking into doing this. So yeah, that's definitely one of the key lessons I learned while studying Walmart. Customer first principle, great reminder, and frugality. I've been doing frugality, or at least focusing frugality now for the past 6 months. Completely changed my life. Completely changed the way I manage and run my business now in my personal life. So yeah, I really, really hope you enjoyed this. I want to end this with a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful quote from Sam Walton. He said, "Celebrate your successes, find some humor in your failures, don't take yourself so seriously, loosen up, and everybody around you will loosen up. Have fun, show enthusiasm, always. When all else fails, put on a costume and sing a city song. Then make sharp, then make sure you stand up for what you believe in. And finally, go for it. Try something new, screw up, try again. Above all, be the kind of person who makes things happen. Sam Walton. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. If you want this blueprint, then click the link in the description. Okay, have a great day and ciao.